What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical, average American here today to react and learn about confusing things about UK houses. Why do your houses have to be so confusing? No, I'm just kidding. Well, maybe I'm not. I still haven't seen yet, so maybe maybe they are going to end up being kind of confusing. You know, when I saw the video title of this, house details in the UK that foreigners don't understand, it made me think, aren't there some things that you can just rely on where, America, it's not all that different than the UK? I would have thought that, houses, pretty standard, pretty similar kind of thing. Everybody's just a human living their life in their house. Probably not all that different between the United Kingdom and America. But no, I couldn't even have that. But it turns out to actually be a good thing, because now I get to enjoy these confusing details about houses in the UK that I never knew before, which is probably, pretty interesting. So, with that being said, let's take a look.
Great Britain, a country of centuries-old traditions, and some of them might seem strange to foreigners. But the Brits aren't in a hurry to change something just because the rest of the world does it differently.
Oh?
Welcome to an English home, and be ready for a surprise in almost every room.
Surprise in every room? The narrated alluded to the Brits aren't quick to change things like the rest of the world. Are we going to discover that houses in the UK are like stuck back in the 14th century somehow with no electricity or running water? Is that the home details that I don't understand? Because that would be more scary than confusing.
Double faucets. These are double faucets for hot and cold water in Britain. When they first appeared, boilers were...
What? I mean, this is... Why? I'm confused. I've never heard of this. So every house in the UK, every single one, has two faucets? Is the technology of a singular faucet just not there yet? Of all the technologies not to have, that's the one. There's worse things. There are much worse things to not have. Okay, two faucets, one hot, one cold. Never knew.
Faucets for hot and cold water in Britain. When they first appeared, boilers were used to heat water, where the bacteria Listeria would thrive.
Okay.
People were at risk of getting infected when they used the hot water, while the cold was pure and could be used for drinking. To avoid an
Okay.
outbreak of listeriosis, authorities forbade mixing the hot and cold water.
Well, this just makes complete sense. Wait, this just seems like it is something from the ye olden days that just kind of everyone just agreed collectively in the United Kingdom, just, okay, we're fine with this. Even if it doesn't really matter as much anymore about stopping bacteria, because it's probably clean anyway. Let's just keep it, because it's cool, and honestly, kind of fancy, if you ask me.
The time of old boilers passed long ago, but separate faucets can still be found there, mostly in older homes.
Okay.
Wondering how they wash their
Okay.
hands? The Brits kid that they've gotten used to moving their hands very quickly between the two faucets. If you don't have this skill, you can mix the water in the sink, which is good for conserving it too. Another option is to buy...
Wow, there's entire strategies built around trying to get warm water. That's the downfall. That makes sense. That's the secret downfall of two faucets. You're either cold or hot. There's no warm. But you can kind of mix it together like a little potion in your basin, in your cauldron of a sink. I'm sure that's exactly how people in the UK think of it. By the way, he mentioned that this is typically found in older homes. So, unfortunately, not everyone in the modern UK gets to enjoy this.
Buy a special attachment that mixes the water.
Oh, okay.
Water laws. In 1965, still another rule about water was accepted. The tap with hot water has to always be installed on the left side when it's possible to do so. This is done for people with poor sight who
Yeah.
might not see where it is and get burnt.
Yeah.
Electricity in bathrooms. You won't find outlets in the bathroom. The voltage in Great Britain is higher than in North America.
I was just I was joking about not having electricity and being stuck in the ye old 14th century. Is this no? I don't think he's saying there's no electricity, but no outlets in the bathroom. How do you blow dry your hair? How do you do it?
Don't find outlets in the bathroom. The voltage in Great Britain is higher than in North America, and in order to avoid an electric shock, there are even pull-string light switches there. They're
Huh?
totally safe, no matter how damp it is. British safety rules also demand that you shouldn't be able to plug something in an outlet when you're in the water. That's why there are outlets in the kitchen where you have contact with the water, but don't get into it.
Wow. So this is just kind of built to be sort of stupid proof, if you will, for lack of a better words. You literally can't electrocute yourself if you're accidentally making toast while getting your bath ready, I guess. I guess that's good. Probably would help out quite a few Americans, in all honesty.
Other countries have different rules, but they might not be as safe. Plugs. The plugs themselves are different. They have 3 pins instead of 2.
Right.
Power outlets have an on switch, which is good since you don't have to unplug the device after charging it.
What? What do you mean? The outlet itself has a button on it built into it? Why are all these facts just so fancy? This is just an extra feature. This is on every light outlet, every I can't even concentrate. This is such overwhelming news. This you have a switch built into every outlet ever. Wow. I mean, that's nice, I guess. I mean, can't you just use the one built in on the wall?
Simply turn off the outlet itself. But if you forget to
Hold on.
device after charging it, simply turn off the outlet itself. But if you forget to turn it on and start charging your smartphone at bedtime, you might just oversleep.
So people in the UK have gotten used to plugging individual appliances into outlets everywhere. And then when you don't want that particular thing to be on or charging, you just turn off that outlet instead of the entire room or something? Wow, maybe this technology actually means that the UK is living in the future. This just gives you more options. Huh. Okay, I can get behind this.
Washing machines in the kitchen. Washing machines are tucked in the kitchen because, you guessed it, there are no outlets in the bathroom.
Right.
British homes are usually smaller than North American ones, and detached
Okay.
or semi-detached houses often don't have separate laundry rooms or even dryers. To dry clothes, they hang them outside on clotheslines.
Okay, I'm pretty positive that people in the UK have discovered dryers, and not everyone is hanging their clothing outside. That's an exaggeration, I have to say. But washing machines in the kitchen. It's so out of place to me, and yet it almost makes sense. Especially since there's no outlets in the bathroom to plug it into. That would make your choice really easy about this. But I mean, you already have a fridge and probably a dishwasher or something, a microwave. A washing machine kind of fits in there, doesn't it? Kinda. Still feels kind of wrong to me. I don't know. I can't shake it.
Reverse switches. Switches in Britain are reverse. You need to flip them down to turn the light on and flip them up to turn it off. Where does this tradition
Okay. This is a funny one. Americans really don't know. I mean, maybe this is my individual experience. I have no idea if my switch turns things on or off when it goes up or down. I just flip it to the opposite way to make the opposite thing that is happening happen. If that made any sense at all. I just flip the switch and the thing goes off. My brain doesn't go further than that. So I actually didn't even know the reverse, that the UK could do the reverse of our switches, because I didn't even know which way our switches went. And yeah, I think I've said what I need to say.
come from? Nobody knows. It's just a convention.
Okay.
Interior doors. Now, what could be so unusual about doors?
Yeah.
Well, they don't open to the perpendicular wall, but to the parallel wall. It might seem strange, but it's good for privacy.
They don't open to the perpendicular wall. Do I have any doors around here? Yeah, that one opens to the perpendicular. I'm trying to look around my place for some doors. Is this true? Do American doors open onto the perpendicular wall and not the... Wait a minute.
But to the parallel wall.
But not the parallel wall? This is blowing my mind. I'm gonna have to think about this. I'm gonna have to go look at some doors after this. This is big news. This needs more consideration. Okay.
It might seem strange, but it's good for privacy. Nobody will see you without clothes on if you're changing and forget to lock the door.
Huh.
Carpeting. Wall-to-wall carpeting can be found anywhere in the house. Sometimes in the bathroom, too.
Oh.
If you buy or rent a house, this won't even be mentioned in the ad. There's not usually another option.
Wait, there's just carpet everywhere? I like carpet, but having it in the kitchen or bathroom, that's pretty much never going to happen in an American household. Just because you're going to spill stuff there, and it's going to stain the carpet, but it wouldn't stain tiles and stuff. Am I hearing this correctly? Carpet everywhere?
To lock the door. House. Sometimes fitting. Wall-to-wall carpeting can be found anywhere in the house. Sometimes in the bathroom, too. If you buy or rent a house, this won't even be mentioned in the ad. There's not usually another option.
Really?
Closets. As common houses are normally small, there isn't much free space for full-size closets. People try to use every square foot to tuck them in, like the place under the stairs, which is usually pretty steep. Window.
Yeah. Americans don't have the Harry Potter under the stairs closet ever, even though it's really cool. Yeah, Americans love gigantic closets, now that I think of it. Huh. Interesting. This is like making me step back and just take a breath and take an analytical look at the American household. I never even thought about it until I was forced to reconcile and compare it to something else. This is actually pretty fascinating.
Like the place under the stairs, which is usually pretty steep. Windows. Windows are open either out, up, or down, but not inside.
Right.
It makes sense if you have a small room, but just think about how you'd wash the windows. Victorian windows usually have only one glass pane, and you can't change them to modern ones, since old buildings should remain untouched. The Brits also don't use curtains, only blinds, which are very thick and have several layers.
Oh, good. I want privacy. I'm on board for the giant, thick blinders, but no curtains. They're just some decor. Don't you want some extra decor? Okay, that's a really random one.
Only blinds, which are very thick and have several layers.
Yeah.
Air conditioning. There aren't often air conditioners in British homes, since the temperature in summer doesn't usually get too high.
What?
That's why windows are used for ventilation and have built-in air circuits so that fresh air can get inside even when windows are closed.
What?
Can you imagine what kind of air leaks they have? That's why special long pillows that prevent drafts are in great demand.
What the heck? All these weird little technologies I'm learning about too. Technologies like it's a hole. A hole for air. But in my mind, brilliant revolutionary technology. Okay. I mean, is this true? The lack of air conditioning. I mean, I don't know if I'm willing to believe that. How do you survive? Well, he said that the summers are more mild, and all you need is some fresh air. Is this true? That's crazy. My respect, if that's true.
Covered-up windows. There are hundreds of old houses in Britain with covered-up windows. If this isn't strange, then what is? Well, it also...
It is by far the least strange thing on the list so far.
Has a reasonable historic explanation. The window tax, introduced in 1696, levied a tax on property owners based on the number of windows they had.
What?
The more windows the house had, the more tax the owner had to pay.
What?
Usually, it was the rich who had larger houses with more windows, so
Yeah.
the government thought it was a brilliant way to make them pay more taxes.
Maybe this is brilliant. I actually was thinking that's insane. But if they were purely trying to come up with any reason at all to have an excuse to tax the rich more, doing it by the number of windows in your house is actually kind of smart. Maybe not fair per se, but it's kind of smart.
Poor people with fewer than 10 windows were exempt from the window tax altogether.
Okay.
Those people who couldn't afford to pay the higher taxes, or who had dozens of windows in their big mansions and wanted to economize, would build over the windows.
Yeah.
When the tax was canceled, people were probably so used to the darkness that they didn't bother to remove the bricks from the windows.
Oh my gosh, it just incentivized them to cover their windows up. So, really, there wasn't much of a benefit to doing this, because to everyone that it mattered to, they just destroyed their windows. That's all it caused, was a bunch of window deaths.
Cold inside houses. It's usually very cold in British homes during the cold season.
Okay.
Heating fees are high, and the Brits prefer to wear layers of warm clothes rather than receive huge bills.
This is a little overgeneralizing, isn't it? Or maybe it's true. Maybe every Brit does this. Puts on 7 layers of coats in the winter and a giant blanket, jumps into the couch, sneaks down into the cushions just to save some money on their heating bill. Honestly, I've been kind of like this before, to be honest. So, actually, appreciate this one.
Some people turn the heat off for a whole night and take a hot water bottle to bed. The
Oh.
government even had to decree that it shouldn't be colder than 64 degrees inside.
Oh, some people were taking it to the extreme, and the government had to be like, no, you can't, like, die of hypothermia, because then you won't be able to pay us your tax or pay your heating bill. So, none of that.
Pipes on the house front. Another detail that strikes strangers is that water and sewer pipes aren't underground, but
Oh.
attach right to the front of the house. This is also part of an old tradition when plumbing was much simpler.
Why did Queen Elizabeth just jump onto the top of that building? Anyway, this actually is interesting. Yeah, pipes. You never see pipes like that in rural houses, maybe in the city or something in the United States. But I actually think it looks kind of cool, if you ask me. Gives it a look. It's a look.
Garbage cans. Garbage cans stand close to the main entrance, as if they were the owner's pride. The true reason is far more practical, though. This is done for the garbage collector's convenience. In the 19th century, people
Okay.
used to burn their waste in the backyard, and ash collectors would take the ash that was left after burning.
Oh,
By the 20th century, the amount of waste got bigger and too much ash would be left over.
okay.
Ash collectors were wasting too much time getting to the backyard. That's why authorities
Okay.
changed the waste policy and obligated people to put their garbage cans in front of the street door for quick collection.
This is like the most legit, straight from the olden days. A rule like directly from an old law. That's pretty interesting.
Small yards. There's often not much space in the backyard for a garbage can anyways. Some British houses on the main streets of the town are only a dozen feet wide and have a super narrow backyard.
Wow.
But still, they cost much more than houses on side streets.
I mean, this depends on where you live. If you're trying to buy a house in London, I'm sure it's like $1 million and probably only 12 feet wide. That makes sense. But if we're talking about just houses in the UK, I'm sure some have like bigger area and large front yards and backyards, right? Somewhere.
The reason is quite simple. Everybody wanted to live on the main street, no matter how small the house is. And
Yeah.
they still do.
Yeah.
Mail delivery. Front doors have special slots for the mail, and letters and
Yeah.
newspapers fall right to the floor of the entry.
Yeah, this is only something Americans see in movies or something. You see these all the time when you're growing up as a kid in America, and you learn that their existence is perfectly normal, but they don't exist anywhere in the United States. I've never been to a house that had a mail slot in the door, but yet I'm perfectly familiar with the concept of a mail slot. It's very strange, very strange.
Special if there's no slot, the mail is tucked under the front door. You remember that episode in Harry Potter when dozens of letters from Hogwarts
That episode? That episode? Does he mean movie? Or book? Episode with the... Maybe it was the animated series, who knows?
door? You remember that episode in Harry Potter when dozens of letters from Hogwarts flew through that slot inside the house?
I do.
Now you have an idea of what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Milk doors. Old houses also have special tiny doors for milk. They seem strange now that you can go to any supermarket and buy milk that stays fresh for months.
Yeah. The concept of a milkman, I've heard of, way back in the day. A guy who would come take your empty glass bottles and replace them with full bottles of milk, the milkman. But I've never heard of a milk door, to be honest. Kind of makes sense, though.
But until the middle of the 20th century, dairy factories delivered milk right to the buyers' houses. People would leave empty bottles on the porch or behind a special milk door that used to open both from the inside and the outside.
I mean, this door looks, if this is to scale, this is like just big enough to where you might, if you had the reasons, for whatever reason, you could probably squeeze and crush your body through that if you had to get in. I don't know, if one were so inclined.
I think that's still a great idea. And finally, this bonus. Remember when I spoke about wall-to-wall carpeting earlier?
I
Well,
do.
there's a special pond near London where if you drop your wallet into the water, the carpfish there will pass the wallet around to each other and then toss it out of the water back to you.
Is this a joke? I feel like this is a joke or something. This is not a thing.
It's called carp-to-carp walleting. I'm sorry, I couldn't help myself. Back to Britain. Which of these strange details impressed you the most? Maybe you've noticed others. Let me know down in the comments.
Okay. I was impressed by most of them, to be perfectly honest. So that was by Bright Side. Very good video. Really cool video, actually. Very cool. Yeah. To be perfectly honest, I didn't think that houses was gonna be a thing that was a big difference between Americans and people in the United Kingdom. I thought houses were pretty standard everywhere, and you'd be hard-pressed to come up with major differences. But, by golly, these were all, some of these were very significant differences. A lot to do with windows and temperature and where you put your washing machine, and carpet everywhere, and switches on the outlets, and no outlets in the bathroom. As a matter of fact, the more I think about it, I don't know if I'd be able to survive, actually. All of these are like the perfect example of really tiny differences that individually are interesting, but even all together, it wouldn't be that crazy a leap for me to go exist in the UK and survive just fine, I think. But that's not to say these were extremely interesting and pretty much the last things I ever expected to be different. As a matter of fact, they made me think about things in American homes, like the way that doors swing. It made me think twice about that, and the way that you flip switches to turn stuff off. Stuff I've never even thought about in America. But that's why I like this stuff. It makes me think. It does. Anyway, if this video made you think and you enjoyed it, then feel free to give it a like or leave a comment. And if you're interested in more videos like this, me reacting to the UK, Great Britain, culture, things there, events, news, stuff that I've never seen before, feel free to subscribe for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.